Okay, everyone, we're talking about forces and swing speed. And I know how much all of you love swing speed and ground force discussions. So I thought, perfect time to jump on, share some more research. So if you have any questions, leave a note below. But let's get into some of these studies. So there's two studies I'll briefly talk over, and then a little bit about shoe fitting, and I've got some takeaways there as well. So let's talk about this first study here, which is done by Super Speed Golf, obviously a big player in swing speed products. So I've got the study in this next tab here. So essentially in this study, so they found that a big change in their ground forces made a huge difference in their speed. So 8 miles, which is obviously huge when it comes to on-course changes. So I've made a couple of quick notes when it came to the study and broken it down for you. But essentially, on average, the group had an increase in 5 miles of clubhead speed, 8 miles of ball speed, and 16 yards of carry distance. This is, again, within 6 weeks. So really big change, really fast. And the key thing they saw was in the backswing, their trail leg vertical force increased by 21%, and the lead leg force decreased by 22% in the backswing. So when we think about this, in the backswing, a lot of clients I've seen in the past, and a lot of you are seeing your swings, you aren't finishing the rotation in the backswing. And this is going to rob you of a lot of power. It's going to rob you of a lot of elastic energy. And from there, it makes it really hard to develop speed. And I talk about it quite a lot, but in the backswing, we want to be like an elastic band, right? We want to be able to turn our torso, turn into our hip, use the ground, store all that energy so we can then throw it back into the golf ball. Unless you're someone like John Rahm that has a huge amount of rotational speed, rotational power, a huge amount of ground force, it's really hard to develop much distance from there. And even with John's coach, they constantly talk about trying to get deeper into that lower body to load his trail side, because obviously he's got a very short backswing there. And then from there, in the downswing, they saw after the 6 weeks that this group of golfers had shifted about 75% of their weight to their lead leg. So again, after you've loaded into the backswing, you then want to get the force and the weight back onto the lead leg. And what this is really important for, it's important for compression. It's important for obviously your posture as well. We don't want you hanging back on your trail side. And also it's important just to develop as much force through the ground. If you've got a lot of your weight on your trail side, it's pretty hard to get speed or get force through that lead leg, obviously. So really important with that study. And essentially this group went through a super speed protocol, and there's a deep dive as well if you want it in here, a 14-page study. So I can link you to this. So let's have a look at this next study. And if you're a nerd like me about anatomy and about training, you'll love this. So let's look at these results. So here in the conclusion. So what they found in the people that had the highest swing speed and the most efficient swing, so their vertical force happens before impact. So they are pushing through the ground before that club makes contact. If you're pushing too late, then it makes it very hard to delay the handle and release at that last moment. So for a lot of clients I've seen in the past, there's that sliding mechanism of the lower body, which robs you of a lot of rotational speed, but also ground force as well. Whereas the best players in the world, before the backswing finishes, or right as the backswing finishes, they're getting to the lead side and they're pushing through the ground, extending that lead leg. So that's really important to note. Then secondly, the left lat dorsi, which sits below the shoulder and connects into the back, is contracting prior to the right pec. This is in right-handers. So essentially that left lat dorsi is pulling across before the right arm is pulling towards the target. And this is essentially about sequencing. So if we're sequencing correctly, we're going to stretch our lat dorsi and contract our lat dorsi muscle before the chest on the right arm contracts. If you throw it over the top, you're more likely to contract that right pec earlier, or that trail side pec earlier. So this is where flexibility is really important. We want to be able to sequence correctly. We want to be able to obviously turn with our lower body first, and then the hands and arms will come later in the piece. In terms of sequencing, we want from the upswing, or the top of the backswing, is we want the lower body to move first, then the torso, then the arm, then the club handle, in that order. So very important to note. And lastly, I want to touch on is shoe fitting. So Leon, who's new to the group, we had a good discussion recently on his screening, and he plays in Netherlands. It's a bit dewy, and I asked him what shoes he wore, and he uses a soft sole with minimal grip. So I suggested getting spikes, and essentially this study here, again by Superspeed, looked at a number of different golf shoes, and we're comparing which ones are most effective. So this brand of shoe here had the best effects on ground force, and essentially they've included charts down the bottom here. They've broken it down really well, but essentially here, if you've got poor traction with the ground, it's very hard to push against it, and it's very hard to rotate against it. And a lot of you have probably experienced in the past where you're playing it super wet, the ball doesn't go very far, and part of that is because you can't use the ground as well as when it's dry. So I always try and play in spikes. I've messed around with soft spikes in the past, but it does have a big influence in your speed and your mechanics. And also, I reference this study quite a bit, or this article quite a lot. Golf.com, they published an article a little while ago about Joaquin Niemann and how his ball speed dropped 11 miles if he went from his golf shoe into just a standard trainer and was hitting his driver. And that's because he's got a huge amount of rotational force, and when he used his normal trainer, he just couldn't traction the ground as well. So really important to know. And how are we going to improve this? Also, just firstly, some stats around vertical jumps. So long drivers typically 30 inches, PGA 22, LPGA 18. That's just their rough averages. So essentially the long drivers, they can push into the ground harder, so they can leverage it. So exercises. In your programs, obviously we try and do a lot of kettlebell work, which is going to utilize the ground. We're doing jump drills, med ball drills, and also our heavy strength drills, heavy compound lifts like deadlifts, squats, things of that nature to try and push through the ground. Also, we'll note here, mobility, stability, and stretching. Because if you don't do these very well, if you lack that, it's then hard to use the power that you possess. So I guess if you look like a bodybuilder and you're really jacked up, you're going to probably struggle getting into really good swing positions unless you're doing a lot of mobility work. Swing drills. What can you do at the moment to improve your speed? So in the program, if you'd like to, let me know. I can add in the swing sequence. So it's basically going through a number of different exercises in a sequence. So it's targeting a lot of these drills. But essentially, a lot of these swing drills is working on the ground reaction force. So if we're looking at step drills, we're trying to step away from the ball, then back through. So that's going to work on loading the trail leg and also the lead leg through impact. Baseball swing, pretty similar. We're taking a massive swing like a baseball pitcher would be, or even like a baseball batter, trying to load into the muscles, stretch like an elastic band, like I referenced earlier. Then we're trying to step down and then throw the hands at the last second. Hideki drill. And I like this quite a lot as well. A lot of you don't finish the backswing, so the Hideki drill is essentially trying to finish the backswing. From there, he's firing his hips first in a very structured manner. Other tools you can use. Force pedal is a great one, which is basically like a soft cushion you can put under your lead foot. You can use a towel under your lead foot, anything like that to try and increase your speed. Sports box. This is for me, obviously. If you haven't uploaded your swing to Sports box, please send me a message. We'll set up your account so that we can give you a 3D swing analysis. Really important to show how your body's rotating, how you're using the ground. And obviously there's a number of other tools. So ground force plates, other swing speed devices. And I think most importantly is a measuring tool. So I use PR, GR to measure my speed. Super easy little device to use. Put it next to obviously your driver or your speed sticks, and it's a great way to measure your progress. If it's not measured, it's not managed very well. So that's really important. Hope you enjoyed the chat. Any questions, let me know, and I'll see you next week.